Roy Orbison was one of the legends of rock and roll, the generation of Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis. They called him the Big O. He didn't have a stage act, just a voice.
In the vast landscape of rock and roll, few figures are as profoundly moving or as enigmatic as Roy Orbison. His stage presence was defined by a quiet stillness, his face hidden behind dark glasses and his body encased in black. Yet, from this seemingly unmoving figure came a voice of immense power and aching vulnerability, a sound that resonated with a deep, almost spiritual sadness. For decades, the public grappled with this paradox. How could a man so reserved on the outside sing with such raw, uninhibited emotion? The answer to this long-held mystery was hidden in a life marked by profound personal tragedy. And it's a story that's both beautiful and heart-wrenching. From an early age, music was Orbison's sanctuary. At just 6, he was given his first guitar, and by 8, he was a regular fixture on a local radio station, KERB, in Fort Worth. When his family moved to Wink, Texas, he formed his first band, the Wink Westerners. In high school, it was here that it became clear that the introverted, despaired man with thick glasses wasn't just pursuing a career, he was building a refuge from the world. Today, we'll peel back the layers and reveal the truth. Roy Orbison's professional journey truly began when he signed with Sun Records in Memphis, Tennessee, in 1956. Sun was the epicenter of rock and roll, home to legends like Elvis Presley and Johnny Cash, and Orbison's early work reflected the label's popular rockabilly style. Tracks like Yubi Doobie garnered regional attention and some national success, reaching a respectable number 59 on the Billboard Hot 100. However, Orbison's unique vocal style and musical instincts never quite aligned with Sun's high-energy, rockabilly formula. He became disillusioned with the label's creative constraints and left. By the end of the 1950s, he briefly shifted to songwriting for Akufro's Music in Nashville, where he penned hits for other artists including Claudette, which the Everly Brothers took to success. This period proved crucial, allowing him to hone his songwriting craft and reevaluate his artistic direction. The real turning point arrived in 1959 when he signed with Monument Records, an independent label founded by Fred Foster and his legendary career was truly set in motion. In 1960, Orbison released a groundbreaking song, Only the Lonely. Co-written with Joe Melson, the song had been turned down by both Elvis Presley and the Everly Brothers, but it became a career-defining moment for Orbison. His haunting vocals, combined with a dramatic orchestral arrangement, created a sound that was a world away from the cheerful rock and roll of the time. Only the Lonely was a massive success, reaching number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 in the UK, launching Orbison as a major international star. Over the next 4 years, he delivered a remarkable series of hits. In 1961, he released Running Scared, a song that defied conventional structure with its soaring, unaccompanied climax, showcasing his ability to express catharsis through melody alone. That same year, Crying became another landmark hit, reaching number 2 in the US and later earning a Grammy Hall of Fame award in 2002. In 1963, In Dreams further cemented his innovative approach with a non-repeating chorus and dramatic key changes. His hit It's Over also topped the UK charts, continuing his streak of dominance. Without a doubt, his most iconic hit of this period was Oh, Pretty Woman. Released in August 1964, co-written with his longtime collaborator, Bill Dees. The song featured a legendary guitar riff and a confident vocal performance that still retained the emotional depth of his ballads. It became his biggest commercial hit, reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 3 weeks and selling over 7 million copies globally. The opening riff has influenced countless musicians, and the song's enduring popularity even led to it being the title of the 1990 romantic comedy starring Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. What truly set Orbison apart was his unique vocal talent. His operatic 3-octave range allowed him to shift seamlessly from a trembling whisper to a powerful, full-throated crescendo in a single song. This remarkable vocal ability led to nicknames like the Caruso of Rock and the Big O. Unlike his contemporaries, Orbison's stage presence was notably static. He rarely moved or interacted with the audience. His signature black suits, stoic expression, and dark sunglasses became an iconic part of his mystique. This stark image stood in sharp contrast to the youthful energy of acts like the Beatles and the Beach Boys. Orbison's music, filled with themes of longing, alienation, and heartbreak, resonated with listeners who felt disconnected from the mainstream optimism of the early 1960s. Thematically, Orbison's catalog was unique. While most rock and roll celebrated teenage love and rebellion, his music was steeped in sorrow and melancholy. Songs like Crying and It's Over captured the emotional fallout of broken relationships, while In Dreams explored the pain of a love that existed only in his mind. This emotional honesty made his music incredibly relatable. During a period of great societal change, from 1960 to 1965, Orbison had 22 singles on the Billboard Top 40. His international success was just as impressive. He famously toured the UK with the Beatles in 1963, even as the British invasion changed the face of rock. Orbison's distinct style allowed him to remain a respected and influential artist. By the mid-1960s, however, music trends began to shift, and his popularity in the US began to fade. Yet his influence remained profound. Artists from Bruce Springsteen to Bono have cited him as a major inspiration. Springsteen famously said that Orbison's voice made you want to drive your car off a cliff. Unfortunately, by the 1970s, Orbison's brilliant career had entered a period of serious decline. The man who had once dominated the charts with his powerful ballads found himself out of step with the changing musical landscape of the late 1960s and 1970s. Psychedelic rock, the British invasion, and the rise of singer-songwriters like Carole King left Orbison's style feeling dated. His commercial success waned after he left Monument Records in 1965 and signed with MGM. Despite releasing over a dozen albums for MGM between 1965 and 1973, none of them achieved the same critical or commercial success as his earlier work. This professional downturn was compounded by devastating personal tragedies. In 1966, his wife, Claudette Frady Orbison, died in a motorcycle accident. Just 2 years later, in 1968, a fire at his home claimed the lives of his two eldest sons. These immense losses took a heavy emotional toll, affecting his creativity and output. Although he continued to perform, his albums failed to chart and his radio presence disappeared. By the mid-1970s, he was seen as a nostalgic figure, revered but no longer relevant in an era of glam, rock, disco, and punk. However, the 1980s brought a remarkable and unexpected revival, driven by a new generation of musicians who revered his work. Artists like Bruce Springsteen and Bob Dylan frequently praised Orbison's influence and the raw emotional power of his music. Springsteen, who had covered In Dreams, often described him as one of rock's purest voices. Dylan, a long-time admirer, once said Orbison's voice made you cry just to listen to it. This vocal reverence helped reignite public interest in the Big O. His comeback began to solidify with a Grammy win in 1981 for his duet with Emmylou Harris. That Lovin' You Feelin' Again. The song's modest chart success was less important than the symbolic win itself, which marked his return to Per Sage Be Corned. We marked his return to the musical spotlight. In 1987, his legacy was formally recognized with inductions into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Springsteen gave a moving induction speech, calling Orbison the voice of heartbreak. The honor reintroduced Orbison to a new generation. By 1988, his career was on an incredible upswing. That year, he co-founded the supergroup, the Traveling Wilburys, with music giants George Harrison, Bob Dylan, Tom Petty, and Jeff Lynne. Adopting the pseudonym Lefty Wilbury, Orbison contributed to their debut album, which was a major critical and commercial triumph. Tragically, Orbison would not live to enjoy the full extent of his renewed success. On December 6, 1988, at just 52, he suffered a fatal heart attack while visiting his mother. Weeks earlier, he had finished recording his first solo album in a decade. Mystery Girl released posthumously in January 1989. The album was an immediate success, reaching number 5 on the Billboard 200. Its lead single, You Got It, became a top 10 hit, marking his first U.S. top 10 single in 25 years, and becoming a powerful symbol of his triumphant final act. In the decades that followed, his legacy only grew stronger. His vocal style and influence can be heard in countless artists across various genres. In 2014, a deluxe edition of Mystery Girl was released to commemorate its 25th anniversary. A poignant addition was the song The Way Is Love, which his surviving sons completed from an old vocal demo. This track, a collaborative family project, symbolized the enduring legacy he left behind. His final years were filled with acclaim and a renewed passion for music, leaving behind a legacy defined by resilience and a voice that never lost its haunting beauty. But behind it all, Roy Orbison's life was far from easy. Roy Orbison married Claudette Frady in 1957. They met in Odessa, Texas, and she became the great love of his life and a profound source of inspiration. Her name was even the title of his 1964 rockabilly hit Claudette, a song that captured the joy of their early years. The couple had 3 sons, Roy Dwayne, Anthony King, and Wesley. Orbison, who came from a working-class background, cherished his family and spoke often of his desire for a stable home life. Claudette was a constant presence during his rise to fame, supporting his career through the whirlwind of the early 1960s. However, the pressures of fame and his demanding tour schedule caused friction in their marriage, leading to a brief separation. They reconciled, hopeful for a fresh start. But fate had other plans. On June 6, 1966, weeks after their reconciliation, Claudette died in a motorcycle accident while riding with Roy. The truck driver who caused the accident didn't see them. Roy was uninjured, but Claudette died at the scene at just 24 years old. The loss of his wife and the emotional anchor of his early career was a devastating blow. Reeling from her death, Orbison threw himself into his work, releasing albums with MGM Records in an attempt to recapture his success. But tragedy struck again just 2 years later. On September 14, 1968, while on tour in England, he received the news that his Tennessee home had burned down. The fire killed his 2 eldest sons, 10-year-old Roy Dwayne and 6-year-old Anthony King. His youngest son, Wesley, survived because he was staying with his grandparents. This unimaginable loss plunged Orbison into a period of deep grief. Friends and fellow musicians noticed a palpable change in him. While he continued to perform, his presence became even more somber, and the emotional weight in his music deepened. Songs already known for their vulnerability, like Crying and In Dreams, took on a new, more profound meaning. Orbison, a naturally reserved man, never spoke publicly about these losses. His signature black clothing and dark sunglasses, initially worn to combat poor eyesight and stage fright, became symbolic of the profound grief that defined his private life. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, his commercial success declined as music tastes shifted away from his operatic ballads. Despite the darkness, Orbison eventually found a measure of peace and a new chapter in his life. He met Barbara Ann Marie Wellhonoria Kobes, a German-born music executive. During a trip to the UK in 1968, Orbison was in his early 30s, emotionally exhausted and struggling with his career. Barbara was 17 years his junior, but their connection was immediate and healing. They married on March 25, 1969. This marriage marked a new, stabilizing period in his life. Barbara, with her sharp business sense and emotional intelligence, became more than just a wife. She was his confidant, his collaborator, and a guiding force in his career. She helped him regain his emotional footing and navigate a music industry that had seemingly moved on. Barbara became his public partner, and together they started a new family. Their first son, Roy Kelton Orbison Jr., was born in 1970, and their second son, Alexander Alex Orbison, was born in 1975. The Orbison family eventually settled in Malibu, California, where their home became a sanctuary for Roy. Barbara's unwavering belief in his talent was instrumental in his 1980s comeback. She pushed for better management of his catalog, promoted his new work, and helped orchestrate the career revival that led to his late career renaissance. She also managed the health concerns that came with his return to the spotlight. When he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987, Barbara stood by him with quiet pride, a testament to her role in his resurgence. Tragically, their renewed chapter was cut short. Roy Orbison died on December 6, 1988, just weeks after the release of the Traveling Wilburys album and before the posthumous release of Mystery Girl. Barbara, left as a widow and the guardian of his legacy, dedicated her life to preserving and promoting his music. She co-produced the 1992 compilation King of Hearts and oversaw the remastering and reissuing of his key albums. One of her most notable projects was the 2014 deluxe edition of Mystery Girl, which included the poignant song The Way Is Love, completed by his sons using an old vocal demo. This was the legacy Barbara had built, a bridge between Roy and the next generation. Barbara passed away on December 6, 2011, exactly 23 years after Roy's death. Her efforts to keep his name alive through reissues, documentaries, and tribute concerts were invaluable. Today, the Orbison estate is managed by his sons, Roy Jr. and Alex, who continue their mother's mission, preserving his archives and finding innovative ways to present his voice to new audiences. Meeting Barbara was arguably the most pivotal moment in Roy's life, allowing him to heal and reclaim his life and career after unimaginable tragedy. Now, let's finally solve the biggest mysteries. Roy Orbison's public image was a fascinating paradox, a global superstar who remained intensely mysterious. Audiences and critics were captivated by his stoic stage presence and the soaring, emotional voice that seemed to pour from a hidden sorrow. Despite his fame, Orbison maintained an aura of secrecy, leading many to wonder if his haunting tone was simply romantic sensitivity or something deeper. The dramatic crescendos and unconventional structures in classics like Crying and In Dreams hinted at deeper emotional turmoil. Gradually, biographers and family members, with the release of private journals and letters, revealed a life marked by unresolved psychological trauma from his childhood. Born in 1936, Orbison was a shy, pale, bespectacled child who felt totally anonymous by age 10. This early pain, as argued by biographer Ellis Umburn, never truly left him, but was instead channeled into his music. Orbison crafted ballads that resonated because they originated from a place of deep personal hurt. Umburn's 1990 biography, Dark Star, The Tragic Story of Roy Orbison, describes how he presented one face on stage, composed and silent behind his glasses, and another in his music, where his voice bled torment. Umburn suggests that Orbison often sought out romantic extremes to mask this pain, compensating with emotional distance and ego. One of the most unsettling revelations concerns his medical history. As a teenager, he underwent experimental sinus surgeries for chronic breathing problems. While routine today, these procedures were unconventional then. Later analysis suggests they may have altered his vocal anatomy, giving him his trademark 3-octave range. However, contemporary accounts from doctors and family indicate that these surgeries also left him with chronic sinus pain, migraines, and emotional strain for the rest of his life. The procedures gave the world his otherworldly voice, but came at a lifelong cost. Furthermore, newly released archival materials from the Orbison estate confirm that he often suffered from depression, relied on prescription medication, and privately doubted his career. He described his emotional state as brittle and fragile, at times contemplating quitting music altogether. Yet he continued to write and sing. Orbison's iconic dark sunglasses also became a central part of his mystery. The story behind them is now clear. In 1963, while on tour with the Beatles in the UK, he accidentally left his regular glasses on a plane. Forced to wear his dark prescription sunglasses on stage, he realized the look gave him a sense of emotional distance and control. As his persona evolved, the glasses became a powerful symbol, masking his vulnerability and shielding him from the glare of the spotlight. It created an aura of mystery that both protected and defined him, transforming him into a sorrowful figure shrouded in style. Finally, despite widespread rumors, Roy Orbison was not blind. This misconception stemmed from his constant use of sunglasses, static stage presence, and the emotional intensity of his music, which all contributed to his otherworldly image. In reality, he had severe myopia and astigmatism, which required thick corrective lenses. The prescription sunglasses were a practical solution that eventually became his signature look. He never actively encouraged the myth of his blindness, but also did not go out of his way to dispel it. Perhaps recognizing that the enigma it created added to his allure as the Caruso of rock. Today, with a clearer understanding of the man behind the myth, we can truly grasp the human cost and personal suffering that fueled the brilliance of Orbison's haunting legacy.